Fez Whatley passed away over the weekend. I don't know when it actually happened. I think it was Friday night. I was basing all of my information off of the Bennington Instagram post that let us all know that he passed away. This is a couple days ago. It read this way: "We lost our sweet Fez Whatley last night. His heart finally gave out. We are devastated, but we'll remember the laughter through the tears. Our thoughts are with his family who loved him the most and with the people who knew him as a voice on the radio. Hashtag Fez Whatley." And then there's a veritable who's who of people in the radio industry and the comedy industry that left comments on that. I called you the second I saw that, but you didn't pick up. Did you see it that Saturday morning?
Yeah, I saw it when that post was only 8 minutes old.
Okay.
So I was very fresh to the party, but I did not want to be. I knew you had a big event, and I didn't want to be the harbinger of death, and be like, oh, did you see that this happened? Did you see that? I was just
that also sucks. People that do that, the death text, because people want to use a death as a way to scoop other people, I guess.
It was a weird thing because I knew that we both have this connection over the Ron and Fez show, and especially Fez Whatley. And I'm like, I could, if I sent this to Dukes, it probably wouldn't be interpreted as me trying to scoop him, but I'm just going to let him figure it out naturally on his own when that happens.
Okay. I don't believe you, but, it sounds good saying that. I called my brother because my brother is, he's obsessed with Ron and Fez, and he listens to Bennington every day, and he didn't know about it, and he seemed bummed. I was going to call. I had one other. I don't need to go into that. So I found out Saturday. I don't want to make this all about me, but I do kind of want to take people through how it went down for me personally, because it's my show. Fez, I don't even really know how. This is the problem that I had with this whole thing, and I kind of thought I'd be ready on Monday to do a better job at my job tour, which is kind of conveying a point and making a point. I don't know how to describe to people how unique that show was, or how unique Fez was on that show. In that, a lot of people say the word unique, and that kind of means that, they're just special. Like, people will come out and say, well, Cam Newton is unique, right? Well, it's like, no, he's not. I mean, there's Lamar Jackson, there's Josh Allen, you go down the list of guys that can, do some incredible things behind the fucking, when they receive the ball from the center. I guess we could sit there and debate that, but unique is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it doesn't mean people don't use it. They don't really, it's that Princess Bride quote. I do not think it means what you really think it means. Fez Whatley was 100% completely unique, and made that way because of also the incredibly strange environment that show always cultivated. And by the time his broadcasting career had drawn to a close, the perfect storm that had to develop, where, first of all, you're able to turn somebody's personal issues into entertaining radio. Then you're able to have someone be as open and honest as he was about what was going on with him. And then to have it on satellite radio, where they don't really care about ratings, they just care about whatever metrics they use. I've really never figured that out yet. It could just never happen again. To go along with, and we've talked about this on the show, just how funny those two are together, and funny in different ways. There's stuff, and it's so weird, Tor. It would be like, you know anything about Paul Newman?
No, not really.
So Paul Newman is an actor, right? He's one of the greatest actors to ever live. And when he got older, he became a car racer. And he didn't just start racing cars. He started racing cars and winning. He started racing cars and doing incredible things while he was racing cars. So he wasn't just, I don't mean any disrespect to CM Punk, but he wasn't just getting a fight in the UFC because he was CM Punk. He established himself as very credible in that industry. And I feel that way about Fez quite a bit, where when he's selling a bit, when he's still an active member in that show, and he's getting, E-Rock pulled us that clip of him getting hit in the head with the cowbell. Nobody was better at going along with a bit and fostering a bit on the radio than that guy. And then later in his career, when he became very mentally unfit, he was equally as entertaining, in my opinion, but in just a completely different way, in a completely open and honest, and sometimes weird, sometimes angry, sometimes hurtful, but being entertaining in a completely different way than the way that he was entertaining before. And I just think that's incredibly rare. And there's been people that have passed away, Tor, that I've looked up to or have influenced me, or I've respected their work quite a bit, or even I've known. And it didn't hit me as hard as Fez passing away did. And it was very odd because we had an event Saturday at my shop at Commonwealth Dry Goods, it's me and my wife, and there was a bunch of people coming out. And I was driving in, and I got a little bling, I got a little update, and I looked down at my phone while I was sitting at a red light. Shocker. Someone probably had to tap on their horn. And it said Fez Whatley had passed away. And I was like, well, that can't be. Like, this has got to be a gag. It's got to be a gimmick. It's got to be the kayfabe. And then I went over to the Instagram and I saw the post, and I had to fucking pull over. Like, I drove over to, there's a little recycling area over by the post office here next to the studio. And I just sat in the parking lot. It was just fucking sobbing. And my whole family passed away. And I wasn't ready for it. Like, I didn't think that would happen. And I process death usually pretty well. And I think it's because I'm so emotionally carterized about some things. But it was fucking devastating. And I said, I gotta go. It's gotta be like when you got kids at home and it's like you're trying to cut off your fucking emotions so you can be there for your kids. I don't want to compare owning a store to raising children, but I had a bunch of people at the store. My wife was there. She needed me. And I was like, I've got to cut this off. I've got to seal this up. And so I sealed it up, put on my sunglasses. I drove to the store, and there's a lot of people there. And thank you, by the way, everybody that came out. It was a tremendous success. Friday and Saturday at the shop. Absolutely wonderful. But people are in line, and like one of the things that my role is there is I, talk to people that want to talk to me, which is nice. And so, but I'm wearing my glasses, and I'm just, I'm putting on the brave face, and it's like, we're for about an hour, I talked about, I don't know, 50 people. It was a lot, and everybody was very nice. My chick, she said something about, we were holding a candle for Loud Goat, and she went to go get the candle out of the back, and it was the wrong candle. And I said, no, he needs the other one because we're holding the one that's more rare, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, she told me that I was incorrect about that, and I fucking snapped. Like, I fucking, I didn't yell because there was people in it, but I remember, hissing. Like, I remember making, I fucking dropped my voice, and it was awful. And I told her to go home. I said, just fucking go home. And she was just taken aback because I usually don't act that way. Right. And so she got all of her shit and left. And it was a busy day. Like, I could have used her there, and I fucking acted like a monster. And so I finished the day up, and then I didn't know what to do. So I came up here, and the 2 times I've kind of had fugue states, I've actually spent them up here because unlike other people, I think, having a fugue state, I still have this crazy control complex where I don't want to fucking affect others around me. So I went back in the fucking couch back there, and I fucking cried for probably 3 hours. Probably just sat back there, and it would stop, and I would fucking calm down. But then I started. Problem is, after about the first hour, I started drinking, and then I had my little phone, and I would just fucking queue up a bit. One of the bits I've listened to 1,000,000 times, and I would just sit back here and I was drinking, and I was just drinking and crying, which you never want to do. And it was very odd. Like, I knew I would be sad if any of these guys die, right? But Fez is completely unique, and I think if people listen to that show, that word applies to him, and it certainly applies to how much time I don't think a lot of people listen to radio shows the way I listened to that one, or the way you even listened to that one, Tor. And I've been doing it for, 2014. I was listening to all those segments live, and then I've just been crushing them on YouTube ever since. It's hours a day, and I don't even know if it's healthy. It probably isn't. I probably should be doing something else. I should probably listen to a book on tape or something. But just hours when I say to you, I listen to about a 4-year span of the Ron and Fez show for at least an hour and a half every day. That is not that's a shoot, and usually it's more than that. So it just completely fucked me up. And then I had this situation at home where I had been inappropriate. I had said inappropriate things, and I didn't call her any names or anything. I literally was just like, get the fuck out of here. I can't fucking deal with this right now. Or something like that. Yeah. It was inappropriate, and she was working, and she had worked very hard to get the store where it was, and I regret it, and I apologize to her later, but I didn't want to go home. So I was just sitting up here drinking and crying, and it was fucking awful. It was just just not good. So I finally end up going home, and she's upstairs. And I can see, usually when she don't want to talk to me, like if she's mad enough at me, the door is closed to the bedroom. Door was open, light was on. So I knew at least that there could be a conversation, but I wasn't ready for it yet. So then I went downstairs, and I don't know why I did this. I jumped on my video game stream, just depressed as all shit out, and not really having even control over my emotions at that point. I don't know if it came across during the stream. I don't know. You can ask those guys. There was not many of them, but the regulars were all there. But it gave me a little bit more time to kind of process everything. And then I went upstairs, and I had the full fucking apologize, and had the full breakdown, like the full meltdown, fucking hysterical. And I was not ready to process how difficult it all was. I just want to give you some context as you're listening to the show, how the effect it had. Now, the problem with that too, Tor, is like I wanted to share some of those emotions online, but you also don't want to make it about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, someone is the people that know this guy are expressing themselves. They, that worked with him, and I saw you cite Dave tweeting. I saw Norton tweeting, and some of those guys are going to come on the show this week. We're going to talk to E-Rock today. Actually, I think E-Rock's been nice enough to join us today and talk about Fez a little bit. But it was really good seeing like just the fucking outpouring like of people, and not just listeners but celebrities, and you just don't. You don't see that. I mean, nobody had a bad word to say except some fucking assholes that were trying to, I guess, hijack the hashtag or whatever, just because the internet's filthy. But I chose not to spend any time focusing on them. But there's just there's a lot there that probably it will not be recreated as far as his relationship, not only with his audience, but with. And I tell you what's also lucky, Tor, is I got a chance to meet him once, and it was very lucky. I got to thank Steve from the Pie Tasters again. He had a ticket. They came down here to XM to do a show from DC. They do their show in Sirius up in New York, and he had an extra ticket one day and said, "Hey, Ron and Fez are coming. Do you want to go down?" And I got to thank Chris Keinert, who hasn't spoken to me in a while, but he gave me a half day so that I could because it was in the middle of my show.
Yeah.
So I was able to go down and watch Ron and Fez, and I didn't think they knew who I was, and I didn't think that they would care if I was there. But I remember watching Pepper Hicks take a piece of paper, and who's their producer, and he walked it over to Ron. And Ron said, "I don't know why I'm sitting up here wasting time with this ham and egger. And I don't even know who was up there." He goes, "When a radio royalty like Chad Dukes is in the building." And because I had no idea it was coming, and I could not have been transported back to being like a 5-year-old, like walking and seeing presents under a Christmas tree. It was unbelievable. And I got to sit up there and fucking just hang out while they did the Ron and Fez show. And it was a really good show. And it was a day where Fez was quote unquote hypnotized. So he was doing characters. And I had an idea. I said, "Why don't you be Fez from 7 years ago? And then mentally you'll be," and then he did it. Like he was, and just to watch him create in front of you, and then Ron is just belly laughing watching him, and just to be sitting there on a stage while that was happening, I knew it was special. Like I always knew it was special. I have a picture that I posted where Fez is standing up, and he's got the big mustache and the microphone, and he's screaming about something, and it's me, and it's Ron, and it's everybody on the dais just fucking hooting with laughter. It was amazing. And then he took a picture with me, and he could not have been a fucking nice, both of them just tremendously nice people. But Fez was just very, very kind. I remember that. So that was very lucky. I also, back when I was probably your age, how old are you, 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably your age, maybe 24. Cameron Gray, another guy I'll never be able to, thank enough for getting me into radio. He was producing Ron and Fez while they were in DC, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come in and help me tonight? They're doing an event." And I was like, "Shit, yeah." So I went in, and I'll never forget, I was wearing a Kurt Angle shirt, and I had my head shaved. I just looked like every fucking lunatic listener they ever had. And there was some sort of spanking event going on. Like Ron was having somebody spank somebody else, and I got to go into that studio, and I held a boom mic so that you could get the sounds of the fucking ass being slapped. It was one of my favorite memories. And then I ran that show. When they went back to New York, I fucking ran the board for that show. Down here in DC, because they would shoot the feed down here, and then I would, run the local spots and do it. And I fucked up horrifically the first time. Rob Spiewak came in, actually. I'd fucked the board up so bad I didn't know what was going on that I literally just put my hands up in the air and waited to die. And I remember Rob Spiewak came running in after he was done with Don and Mike and kind of showed me what to do and said, this is fine, you don't worry about this. And then that was another very poignant memory that I have about it. But I have this weird relationship with that show where it kind of existed in so many, like it was in my world when I was very starting off, in radio. They were here in DC doing their show, and then they left, and I didn't find them again for another couple of years when they got the golden ticket from O&A, and they're actually on that station, and then just starting to listen to them again. And it was a completely different show then. Like, I really didn't understand a lot of the message board stuff they would do. And they were doing a generation of their show where that literally was all about their website, their message board, and with all these different characters I wasn't familiar with. But just like, my favorite shows were Don and Mike and Howard Stern and Opie and Anthony, and then that became my favorite show. And like to pass those shows, and the Sports Junkies, like I listened to the Sports Junkies. I used to tape Sports Junkies. If I missed an hour, I would go back and listen to it. And somehow Ron and Fez got to the top of that fucking comedy pyramid, as they say, which I don't know how it happened, but it's just a lot. And to have it be someone that you don't know, it's like when Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away, I remember being real upset about that just because I was such an admirer of his pictures. But I had met this guy, and like I had interacted with him, and it just like knowing, and you know this too, Tor, and I want you to speak your piece as well because you're a huge fan as well. I'm blithering away here. To hear him go through this strife, you don't get, that door doesn't swing open usually. Like when you see Whitney Houston is addicted to crack, like what the fuck? Like how could this happen?
Right.
You don't know what people's troubles. Like when fucking Chris Cornell offs himself, you're like, how the fuck would you got a family? Like you're the most talented singer. It just you don't see it, and we saw his pain. And his pain was, God help me, it was hilarious. It was unbelievably entertaining listening to all of that. And then what was also so remarkably, hear the word again, unique, I never knew what was real and what wasn't, almost until the very end. I mean, Tor and I did a segment 2 weeks ago where we're fucking spitballing about Steakgate and what part is real and what part isn't. I mean, this is an 8-year-old segment. We're fucking sitting here breaking down like it's a Zapruder film. It's fucking crazy. It's like this quarterback got sacked. All right, who missed their block? Oh, God, it was Tor again. Like that. It's like going down and breaking down that film. Why is he baseball sliding into the fucking sidelines while the quarterback's getting the blood sucked out of his neck by the DE? Well, he thought he saw a minnow over there. He's chasing it up into the fucking bleachers. I don't know. But I assume I assume if nothing else, Tor, you understand the difficulty in trying to express the complex nature of who Fez Whatley was as an entertainer.
Yeah, so I'm still very green to the whole game. I started listening to Old Talk Radio, I think, in 2018, but it's been as big a part of my life over those last 3-4 years, whatever, than anything else in my life. I've listened to something from Stern, O&A, or Ron and Fez every day. I would think. I'm sure there's been days I haven't, but it's like when I think about those shows, how I would describe them, I go into like a school because that's where I'm kind of still in a little bit, where like Stern I put as like the class clown, and then Opie and Anthony, that show is like the lunch table where everyone's just shitting on each other, and it's just you're in the barrel. And the Ron and Fez show, I always thought of it as like the fever dream that you had when you were sick at home from school and you didn't know exactly what was real.
It's an interesting analogy.
What was not real. And it's just, I think the first clip I ever listened to was the Thanksgiving meltdown where Fez is just trashing the intern.
That's a wild first clip to listen to. But see, to give that context though, you didn't hear him beforehand when he was just fucking, hilarious and playing all these characters and going along with the bit. Like if you started there, that's a very wild jumping off point.
That show, I listened to that, I'm like, I don't know. I remember I was power washing and I just like, all right, let's try this out. I just had my headphones in. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I listening to? And then it's as satisfying a show to learn more about that there is. When you learn more about the characters and how the dynamic works, you're just like, once you finally start getting it, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I started getting it, and then you just can't stop. And it's like, I don't know. The Fez, I didn't have a breakdown and cry, but I'm like, because I was a little late to the party. I feel like.
But but your trauma is in other areas.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, me sobbing for hours and hours and hours. A lot of it had to do with Fez, but a lot of it had to do with what a fuck up I am as well. So your trauma touches you in different areas with the bathing suit covers.
It was but it was like a hero going for me because I wouldn't call him. I was too late in the game to call him a peer or an acquaintance or just even a colleague in the radio industry. So it was just like, there goes a hero that I've been just in love with the last 3 years. It was weird. And it was difficult also. Like, it was because you knew he was never in that great of health, and you're like,
well, he's constantly having heart attacks.
Yeah.
For those people that aren't familiar with Fez, I think he had 15 stents in his heart when he passed away. I feel like every time I tuned into the show, it was like, well, Fez had another heart attack. He'll be back in a week or so.
So
I'm sorry again. That was hilarious. Also, it was just fucking. They made it funny. I don't know how, but they did.
So you're like, if he goes, it's not really going to surprise me that much because he's like, when Kobe went, it was just out of nowhere.
Sure.
And that touched a weird spot. It's like I was even a big Kobe fan, but he was just a major figure that
he just was one of the most famous people, and everyone knew him, and you knew him from the time he was a kid because everybody knew about Kobe Bryant before he even played for the Lakers.
And then but I still would do the same thing. I listen to more Fez stuff than I do Kobe Bryant highlights, so it's still a little more impactful for me.
Also, Kobe Bryant's playing basketball. There's no connection there. This is why I think that people listening to this show are better equipped to know what I'm talking. If I was doing stupid 106.7 The Fan right now, people would be switching for their knobs to hear about how bad the Nationals are.
No, they stink.
They're the worst team in all of baseball. And at first I thought you were making that up, and then I saw how many games they lost in a row and out of the last 10. And I'm like, what a fucking embarrassment. And the teams they lose to. So the reason why Spider Clam, right? Mm-hmm. Complete psychopath.
Yeah.
All these guys, everybody that listens to this show. The reason is because talk radio is different than any other type of format, than any other type of entertainment, than movies, than music, than what have you. I'd say it's closer to music in that it emotionally where it can get you. But what I would also say is you don't know anything about Jimmy Page. Like, unless he gets arrested or he writes an autobiography. You're having interpersonal communication with somebody. I think it's why so many weirdos get attracted to this, so many damaged emotionally people. I think that's why there's so many people that show up in radio hosts' backyards, say crazy shit about them on the internet. What happened to me when I got fucking canceled? It's because there was a crazy person in my life, from way before, that was crazier than I thought. And I think that you're gonna always feel differently if you're a talk radio fan and you've listened to a show for many years, a show like this or a show like O&A or a show like Donna Micro, these real shows. What I'm talking about. I don't mean any disrespect when Rush Limbaugh passes away. I know millions of people listen to him all day, but I'm talking about shows that come in and a topic could be, hey, I had an argument with my wife, or hey, last night I woke up and I had a burning in my ass and I found out I have hemorrhoids. I mean, I don't even know if that shit exists anymore. I don't listen to enough podcasts to know if that's what people do. But you feel like you know these people. And that's why I think I'm equipped to deal with this better, because I'm the people. I'm the weirdos that want to be in the host's life. Like, that's me. I wanted to be friends with the hosts, and you have to say, all right, that's crazy, fight that back. This is this play. You've got regulators, most people do, to realize, okay, I got to walk this fine line between, I don't know this guy, like I don't know him, I'm not in his life, but I know everything about him and everything about his life, because and let me say this about Ron and Fez, they shared too much. Like, the shit they would talk about on the radio, like they would talk about Ron and Dave got Fez and Dave, they got their identities stolen. They had they would talk about where they lived and give out like locations and street addresses, and it was nuts. And they would have this website, they would just go and these people would be at their houses and they would just go and hang out at the bars, and it was probably the most personal radio show of all time to go along with that. So it makes that connection feel like it's that much more intimate. And I think that's why probably a combination of how unique everything it is, why you're seeing so much emotion.
So one thing that I've been listening to you, you've talked about how the talk radio fans get super attached and they're kind of mentally sick.
Not all of them,
but they can be.
Sure.
But that's
like Joe right there.
I did learn about this. It's one of the few things that I learned. It's called parasocial interaction.
Look at you.
It's where somebody believes that they are friends with a celebrity or someone of status because they consume so much of their product that they think that they have this connection when that person doesn't really know who they are.
Right.
And that's great for a listener, and that's kind of what you want to develop if you're a host. But for people, it can be a little damaging when you're going around thinking that because I bought a whole bunch of makeup, Kylie Jenner and me are now close. We have this connection.
Right, but those people are bringing mental illness to the table already. This is the gun argument. This is the heavy metal music argument. This is, people want to blame the instrument instead of what's brought the person to the table to use the instrument. But you're right. I think there are people that if you get involved in this, like Kylie Jenner, I'll say this, you have more access to celebrities now than you ever have in the history of mankind because they're doing TikTok videos and they're running their own Twitter accounts. And I don't know, that's wild. So yeah, you can get more immersive, but Tor, you're never going to know as much about Kylie Jenner, even with that fucking fakakta TV. That TV show's fake.
Right.
That she was on. I mean, the shit, they didn't get any much more realer than Ron and Fez for about 6 or 7 years. It was the realest fucking show. It was a show that could not. I remember Ron saying, if we were doing this on terrestrial radio, a program director would come down the stairs and say, guys, unless you're going to start doing a show, we're going to move on from you. Because you got to start doing a show. You can't just keep doing this every day. But no one was doing that, so they could just keep doing it every day. And it just won't ever fucking happen again. And that's where you get all that access. I don't want this to turn into a show about stalkers, but I think it's you and I just trying to impart to maybe a casual listener why that connection is so intense, and watching someone suffer and deriving pleasure from it. Like I'm not used to that. Well, I feel that all the time. Actually, I take that back. But like not amongst my friends. Like whenever something bad happens to one of my friends, I'm very happy about that. I think we all are. But
yeah, the diabetes for Monk, that got a bit of a pop.
Right there. I mean, Joe's fucking, you're not going to get a bigger laugh. When Monk's in here, I go, there's Monk, he has diabetes, and everyone starts fucking high-fiving and fucking raising the roof. I'm not used to people raising the roof, and they do whenever we talk about Monk's diabetes. Yeah, I think that's something that'll have to happen out at Flying A's Farm. So many funny fucking segments, man. Just so many you mentioned the cake horn thing. Like, how do you fucking... Like if my mom called me up and said I saw, well she wouldn't, but if she did and said I saw that Fez, she would know that I'd listen to Ron and Fez. But if someone called me up and said I saw that guy Fez you listened to died, what's this cake horn thing? Guy said cake horn. I don't know. It turned into 4 days of radio.
It was a verbal mistake, and it got a year anniversary the next year.
Malapropism is what it was, right? I think I used that correctly. He wanted to say either cake hole or horn, and he said cake horn.
Yeah.
But then he stuck to his fucking... The reason why I know it's not a bit... I don't know it's not a bit. That's another part that's so fucking weird. Is that he stuck to his guns that cake horn was a real fucking thing afterwards. See, that's where I never... Most people, if they fuck something up like that, Tor would want to get past it, because you look like a moron. But the fact that they would sit there and stew in it for as long as they did makes me think that it's at least possible that they... But how do you come up with that? How do you come up with a guy says cake horn, we talk about it for 15 fucking hours?
Yeah, he was talking about possibly getting discriminated against
in the workplace.
And it became 4 days worth of this was a verbal flub, but it's now #1 trending topic on Twitter.
And then the symbiosis of then Sam Roberts, who is going to be on the show later this week, cutting the fucking segments up, taking them to Opie and Anthony, and then Opie and Anthony doing what Bennington called a Ron and Fez Sports Center. They just broke down everything that happened. And then that audio would be taken, and then they would play that audio on the Ron and Fez show, and you're sitting here like, I can't fucking believe, like, what an entity that is. It was outrageous.
It's just, I don't know. You can't do that. I don't hear other, like, podcasts now, they'll pull up a clip and they'll react to it, but there's not much interaction like that, whereas when everybody's in that same building, it's a whole different dynamic. And it's like, working here in the studio, it's great because we got the studio, we got our own space.
Sure.
But when there's more people involved and more people are stirring the pot, and you had the fantastic pot stirrers of that.
It's a pirate ship, man.
Yeah.
We had it for a minute. The problem with Big O and Dukes is when we were doing our thing, when we were in Baltimore, there were no other shows, you know, and then when we were in Phoenix, there were no other shows. There was Lycus was piped in, Corolla was piped in. And then when we got back to DC, when we first started, Don and Mike were up in Maryland. So we were in Fairfax, where Ron and Fez did their show years before. And it would be the Junkies, and then it would be like Bill O'Reilly and like a weird conglomerate of shows. And then it would be Don and Mike from Maryland, and then us. So there was no pirate ship. There was no intermingling. By the time it was over, it went Junkies, us, and then the Mike O'Mara show. And so that's when you saw, like, you know, Dysfunctional Family Friday, and you saw us on Mike's show and us on the Junkie show, and everybody kind of interacting. And that's, you're absolutely right, Tor. The type of radio you're describing cannot be created anymore, because if there is a big band, first of all, COVID fucked all that up, but also if there's a big band of people, they ain't doing those shows anymore. Real talk radio with 3 different shows all interacting with each other, you find it. Find it. Where is it? It's gone.
Right.
It'll never come back. It's a fucking, I don't want to say it's a dinosaur because it sounds like it means it's outdated or it's outlived. No, it's just, it's encased in amber somewhere. And we only had it for a couple of years. But I saw the impact of what you're talking about, and that's probably why those shows were so great. Is that they had a great affinity for each other. And even when they were fighting, I remember Don and Mike and O&A. Go listen to those feuds.
Oh, that's. Yeah.
They're just eviscerating each other on the air, and then Ron and Fez would come on, and they'd be like, "Hi, we're just a little island down here. Come and join us. We're an oasis." You'll just never get that ever
Ron
again.
will always talk. Hey, we don't want the bosses to know we exist. That was his line. I'm like that. And whenever Fez did something to make him know, he would just be so furious.
Oh yeah, when he'd go down the hall and like complain that Opie dumps cereal all over the board or something like that, or fucking yeah. You'd always go to try to get Shelby fired. That's a great segment. If you want to go on YouTube, it says Fez wants Shelby fired. Listen to that.
I don't know what we could. I don't know if we have to go if you're a casual and you're interested in this, just go to YouTube and start.
It'd be nice. I know you put together that nice little montage at the beginning of the show. If you put up together a little tours playlist, you know?
Oh, I can make that.
Maybe 5 segments. We put it out on social media with the links, and maybe people can get caught up if they don't know. Because I think that people ask me for segments all the time, and the one that I always give them is Fez's Subway Stalker, where he is following a guy around on the subway because he's into him. And that was the funny time, because if you go back and listen and you don't know the time period, Fez was always gay.
Yeah.
But there was a time period where everyone knew he was gay, but he hadn't come out of the closet. So it was Fez's secret. And then there was a time where Fez had came out of the closet, was like really excited about it. And then there was a time where Fez had already come out of the closet and had done nothing about it. And so it became like a bone of contention with everyone. And like you can basically, it's like carbon dating with that show. You can figure out what era that you are in. That motherfucker will be missed, man. And he is, it just sucks. Because it also, he would just have so many heart attacks. I didn't think it was a bit, but I'm like, you'd always say built differently. I'm like, maybe he's just built to have 8, 9, 10 heart attacks. I've never heard of anybody else having 15 stents in their fucking heart and then not changing their diet. It was so great when he was mad at Pepper and Shelby, and he's had all these heart attacks. He has these stents, and he's going to get soul food.
Or it's the Langos.
So he could eat it in front of them because they went to get lunch without him. It's the pettiest shit the whole time. The Langos lunch incident. That's really fucking good. That's gonna be on that better be on your playlist.
I definitely want the Three's Company trivia is I may have watched that 100, 200 times.
That's a great one. Any of those trivia contests, you go the Batman trivia, the WWE trivia.
When he starts yelling at Ronnie, you just want people to like you. And then you're kind of like, you see just for a moment that it goes down, and they're just Fez is making a little quip. I don't think he's doing it. He's just, for a little bit, you're like, oh, he kind of is a little upset about this.
Well, there was one where fucking where BL is he's making fun of BL, and then he just starts just laying out all the things he actually wanted to say about what's wrong with his life, but he's doing it in this character with his face painted orange with a blonde wig on. There's a fucking I wanted to make note of this because I listened to it again today. There's a bit they used to do called, have you ever heard him do the radio rattlesnake?
Oh, it's the
funny, and it's why Fez is a genius. He had to completely, when you talk about selling a bit, like, so they play, it's on the radio. they play the Stone Cold music, and then, of course, Ron turns into the radio rattlesnake, which I assume is just a pro wrestler. And then he starts beating up Fez. Like in the middle of the studio, just beating up Fez. But you don't hear anything Ron's doing, so Fez has to narrate the entire thing while sounding like he's getting beat up, right? So Fez is like, he's all over me. Oh, don't take those pills. I need those pills. Oh, my God, he's making me take all my pills. And it's just fucking... I just tweeted the fucking quote to Ronnie B. quotes today. He said, oh my God, he's putting pretzel rods in my nose. God help me, there's pretzel rods in my nose. Somebody get them out. And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because of course you could just take the pretzel rods out of your nose. And why would you be narrating someone beating your fucking ass? And why would it be your co-host?
It would whenever Ron came back for the second time. Whenever
oh, he's gone. Oh, thank God. And the music would hit again. Oh God, he's back. Boom, 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 boom. Dude, the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's the funniest thing I've ever fucking heard. And that's all him selling. And I have to assume Ron is doing that. Doing whatever he's doing, but who the fuck would know?
The image that I paint when I hear that is some suits just walking by, and then inside the studio is two grown men.
Bedlam. Then they were throwing razor blades. Do you remember when Braun was throwing razor blades at fucking Fez and Dave, and they were just screaming? Like, look, the cowbell bit, they clearly weren't getting hurt. To scream at the top of your lungs every time you got hit with a cowbell, I've always wanted to steal that bit, but it's just so synonymous with that show. It's very difficult to do. Oh boy, he's the best, man. One of the great ones.
Yeah, physical humor on the radio is pretty hard.
Hard to do. Hard to do.